Hello and welcome to Thav Exclusive. I am your host, Natasha Brown. And on today's episode, we'll be speaking with a phenomenal young man. He is astute in every way possible you can think of. He is a geologist by training, management consultant, a music business enthusiast, and also with a large interest in politics, running for the office of House of Assembly, constituency 1, Phalga. So stay tuned, don't go anywhere, and we'll be right back. Welcome back. So, nice to meet you again. The phenomenal one, like I said, I mentioned you to be a phenomenal Mr. Olumati Isaiah C. What is that C?
Chiziebobo.
Chiziebobo,
you know. God is glorious.
Oh, that's so beautiful. I've always wanted to ask you, because I just see the C and then I never really knew what it was. You are the principal, now called The Incoming. 2 taglines for yourself. What's the story behind them?
A principal is basically an organizational title, like CEO, president, and all of that. So we decided to settle for principal. Accidentally, though, started off as a joke, but looking back in retrospect, we realized whilst we were setting up the company that the British used principal for these titles, and then we settled it for it. It stopped.
And The Incoming.
Oh, of course, that's because I'm running for Phalga constituency 1 under the Labour Party, House of Assembly. And that's from my friend Emeka Nobis. So he always says The Incoming. And I think people just yanked it from him. We kept it. We kept it as a tagline.
All right. So The Incoming.
Thank you.
All right. So now you do a lot of things. Right, you run a business, you run a music business, you have the Olumati company, and now you're recently, in politics, even though you told me you've been in politics all the while, but right now you're vying for like a more visible position, the House of Assembly. What was your train of thought? Like, what made you think, okay, it's time, to come out and do big, in politics?
I think Nigeria is at the precipice of change, if you do ask me. And there's no better time to get into a system that has been monopolized, except for that time when for some reason it's losing its balance and everything is changing. So this gives us an opportunity to step in and bring our best value. Politics has been monopolized. You are either playing servitude, waiting for your turn, as he said, as against competing with the best minds to see who is legible enough to take responsibility and play in these roles. So we have a system in some form of gyration now. Nothing is guaranteed, nothing is secure. There is change staring us all in the face, and it's the best time to find oneself in a system, especially for a dream that one has lost for the last 15 years.
That's a long time, though.
Sure, it's been a long time. That's how I think I pace my dreams.
How are you able to handle all of this? How are you able to put all your career, in proper perspective and then be efficient at all of it? Because you seem like you have a lot on your plate. It's
time management. Everything on earth is interconnected. I started playing off in the music business space. And if you play in the music business space, then you have to pay attention to branding. Then you have to pay attention to communications. Then you have to pay attention to psychology. You also have to pay attention to content writing. You pay attention to sales. You pay attention to promotions, marketing. It's all in that space. And all of these I have mentioned, you take it from that field, put it in any other field, it's still functional. FMCG, auto spare parts, whatever field you take. It's the same thing, right? So all I've been able to do is find what I like to refer to as an entry point. And my entry point for business is music. And everything you could find, or you will find in every other business, you'll find it. So we can take it on. And it's the same thing I do, just being a management consultant with more bias for strategy management. I just take all of those strategies and we apply in different sectors.
And the funny thing is, a lot of us have like slight bias, when it comes to politics and like point leadership, like on a national level, because we're thinking that, okay, so he's in the music business, do your music, right? Do your music, stay in entertainment, but unfortunately, we can't even necessarily sideline you to that because we're seeing the Banky W's. Yeah. I mean, even the Ukrainian president used to be a comedian, so things are really shifting. Yeah. So if that bias is it's not very tangible at this point in time, but still, we try to want to ask, because when we even talk about competency, people keep, saying you should have had some experience, in the political space, some leadership to be able to vie for office. So what's your thought on that?
The thing is, because of how we began the music business in Nigeria, it predominantly began as hobby. Every African sings, it's a normal thing. But the ability to sit down and make singing stellar is something that people do not have. But we have today artists from Nigeria making 100 million a year, 200 million a year. Now people are beginning to pay attention. We're beginning to have a measure of structure, right? For what politics and any other system requires, it requires leadership. And at the core of that leadership is competence. Leadership to lead people, leadership to manage resources, leadership to solve problems, and create systems that will work and replicate itself. That's all anybody needs to be a great leader, in a right sense of judgment. And all you do is replicate leadership ability in any field. It's why you can move from field one, if you understand how leadership works and understand how the field works, to position two. So what people need to check beyond the whole conversation of experience is competence. Because sometimes we confuse use for experience. We confuse the fact that someone has been around something for experience. I mean, the last 8 years, 8 years ago, people could beat their chest and say, oh, the sitting president has experience. This is 8 years of experience. So they confuse use for experience. It's the same reason why in certain jobs, people get in without experience in what they are employed. Why? The employer is not necessarily looking for experience. He's looking to judge competence. And anybody who has competence, who understands the job description.
But don't they go hand in hand, experience and competence?
Not necessarily.
Because the more experienced you are at a thing, the more competent you get at it.
Not necessarily. We have to be clear when we're having a conversation around competence or experience rather. Are we talking about use? Or are we talking about the ability to create best results at every point in time? Because sometimes we say it, but top of our head, we are not even clear on what we mean by experience. See, for the average person, every time they ask you experience, they are asking you, have you been within the system? Not necessarily do you have competence to solve the problem.
True. Very true. Well said. And I know that, one bias you probably have come across as well would be you being young, a youth, and you running for a leadership position. We've had even the previous generation, the prior generation, say that we are not ready. Yeah. The youth of Nigeria, we're not ready to take on leadership at a national level. And the little sad part is a few of us that have even gone out there and have positions on the national level, we haven't even proven ourselves to be wise enough to be there. So already there's that thought process whereby we're already thinking, are the youth even ready? We make a lot of noise that we want to take over our nation and make it progressive, but are we ready? So have you come across that bias, and what do you think your edge is?
So that bias is dicey, it's 50-50. Are the youth ready? Yes. Are the youth ready? No. The biggest sabotage Nigeria has is in her biggest force, the youth. The biggest edge Nigeria has is in her biggest force, the youth. It's how this is managed. What has happened over the time is the installation of what I like to refer to as infantilization of youth. Once I did meet a father who spent about ₦1 million in term, and then I think a session of 2.something million training his son at the university. He graduated, I think he was 18 at the time. And then I said to him, I think you're ready for life. I think you should get to that point where we can put 20 million, 30 million, 40 million, 100 million in your hand, leave you in the middle of a desert, and then you'll be able to replicate some excellence on some level. And the father looks at me and goes, ha, 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 he's just a small child. We've repeated these things over and over. Young men are still growing babies. Because that's what we've done. We continue to enforce it in them that you can't go beyond this point. But the foundation of this country was built by young men.
Very true.
Right? The foundation. I think the governor at the time, I'm trying to get his name, when we made most of these bridges in Port Harcourt, he was 25. He was that young. And these bridges have stood the test of time. The new ones we made are already falling apart. You get the point. So we have young people, and these young people are capable. But at some point, people have enforced it to them that they are incapable. They've become dependent. So a lot of them have gotten to that point in office. However, they got there dependent. So someone is sponsoring their dependency and then making it obvious that they cannot attain this level of responsibility because, of course, they are funding a measure of dependency.
I would like to even ask you what personal challenges you've had, premised on that bias, because I know that maybe, going to have to speak with sponsors, for your candidacy and all that, you might have gotten, a little backlash based off of your age and all of that. But I'll get into that question after the short break. So before we went on the short break, I was going to ask you what personal challenges you have come across, based off of the fact that, you're a young man, getting into the political space.
Really, I do not think that I'm that young. I think I just have a blessing. I'm 35. So I'm not that young. I'm just a normal growing person because I can see a lot of young people. I think that there are some mixed breed of some sort. At 25, they look 50. So I'm just blessed to look like I'm 20. They have way
or more like 18.
Yeah, they have way younger people. I know someone who's running for federal reps is 30. I met someone recently, a lady, she's 28. I was impressed. So I feel like I'm even old in this space because we have to find more vibrant minds at every point. But for me, the experience has been pleasant. I get to meet a lot of people and they go, "Oh, we found somebody young for a long time who is running for position." I think we need to give young people a good choice. However, I need to mention this that because we are now more conscious, that's why we are having the young people conversation. But if you still check back in the records, you realize that young people have always been there. The current sitting governor started in his 20s. It's always been there. We are just now paying attention to what has been before us for a very long time. So it's not anything special that you have. There was Frank Wike Jr. in those days. You had what's the name? I'm trying to remember. There were so many young people in the system, but we are now paying attention and then we are recognizing you. So what is happening is recognition is taking place and it feels new. It's not new. This is the same old things just happening to new people.
So you are running under the party, under the Labour Party, for the Phalga constituency position, House of Assembly. But we know that there's already an incumbent from the PDP. So what do you think your chances are?
No, well, I think my chance is 100%. I know that's full-mouthed to say. That's full-mouthed to say. But we're giving it our best shots. We know our advantages. We know our disadvantages. We're paying attention to both ends, and we're doing all we can. But I can guarantee you that we have 100% of it.
Doing all the groundwork, yeah? Absolutely. And because I think that a lot of the time, first of all, we already know that Labour Party has always been there.
Yeah.
But the popularity took a whole turn when the presidential candidate, Peter Obi, came up on the party, and then everybody's like, we want change, and the youth are trying to, align with him and all that. But we also know that the APC and the PDP, they carry a lot of weight, and they're the popular parties. And they also have access to the funds, So how do you plan on, combating that and making people really see that it's about the person, the competency, what he plans to deliver, and not based off of popularity or how weighty your party has been over time?
Yeah. Like I say, we're at the precipice of change. Everything has, literally changed. When you hear that people are calling for a change, it's not people from the Labour Party. I mean, if you follow the history, the Labour Party is just beginning to grow her people. The people who are crying for a change are people from the APC. So it's the same people who are crying for this change because we are all challenged, flummoxed by the change, by the pain that we have. I mean, everybody goes to the same market. I hear a bottle of kerosene is 1,000.
Inflation is off the roof.
We are all suffering this. Okay, so it is that cry out that we have. So we are. This is where we are. We are at the point where people want to vote people, not necessarily parties. So what we're going to experience is what has never happened. You will have people from either parties vote for Labour.
Yeah.
Right? They will be in their parties, but give Labour their vote, because it's now about individuals and what they bring to the table. Yeah. So funding can be a challenge, but there's something my mentor will always say to me: much more than money, throw your brains at problems. And there's something genius about being able to look around what you have and make the most of what it is. Money is not necessarily all. I do know that poverty has been weaponized. That's a huge problem for our people. They are first considerate about their welfare, what they will eat now, ahead of tomorrow. But that's where, again, I complain about the young people, because the young people can actually live to see tomorrow if they want to. And people have to learn to design their future now. To get any future, you must stretch, and stretch is work. It may not be 100% pleasant now, but why invest into a future that is certainly not going to be pleasant? This is the issue. So if you want to hear about your now welfare that is not sufficient for another 8 years, and sabotage your 8 years possible welfare, or 4 years as it were. So this is it. It's a game of wisdom. Money is needed, yes, but it's a game of wit.
So I see that on your you have 6 cardinal points that you are conversing for as your primary points of focus. If elected, let's hear more about that.
Okay, so it's important that we underscore the fact that the responsibility at the House of Assembly is predominantly 3. 1, to create laws and amend those laws where necessary. 2, to create policies. And 4, carry out oversight functions for the executive. Right? Regardless of that, I am very poised on 6 things. And then, like you said, I'll narrow it down to 2, which is youth development and education. In 55 years of age, Rivers State does not have a youth policy document, while places like Lagos are re-evaluating their youth policy document. And that inherently means that Rivers State actually has no plan for her youth. If this is the case, it means the Ministry of Youth is a waste of taxpayers' money, and so is the Ministry of Tourism. Because, you cannot talk about youth. These areas are not piggyback on the existing population of youth, which is the strength of the state. And then part of what I want to do is advocate that we have in place a youth policy document. Not like a youth policy document had not been created after many pushes behind the scene. One was created, though largely adapting the National Youth Policy document that does not specify or pay any attention to local and real challenges. Nonetheless, that existing one, or that one which has been created, should be adopted by a functional House of Assembly, which, by the way, is non-existent. So that's on one side. We would advocate for that and try to create schemes for youth development, from workshops to seminars and trainings and skills acquisitions. I did meet one of the senior government executive in charge of the Ministry of Youth, and for me, he said some of the most embarrassing things when I asked him about skills development. And he says they do skills development from bead making to hair making and barbing. And so I asked him that.
Those are the traditional skills that they always,
so in 2020, we have Patricia, that is run by a billion, worth 1.1 trillion, bigger than all Zenith Bank has to put together. Someone is still thinking
bead making
of gaming, lights, sounds, and app. Somebody is still thinking of bead making. It's a testament of how the River State sees our young people. And then we're definitely going to push against such. Education is critical. Our education system has been at the lowest ebbs. During the last administration, we saw such a boom in the educational system, from building of facilities to evaluation of teachers to promptness in being in the classroom. It wasn't exactly perfect. Nonetheless, we had a bit of education. Education is critical to our development as a state, as a people, and even as a country. So we need to look back in education and then go back to the model schools that have been left fallow, and some very dilapidated, some overgrown with grasses. And we have to consider those for the young people in our communities. Many countries across the world, most of the notable universities that we have are really all government schools. But in Nigeria, there's no pride to government school. And this is where the least of the people can attend. we cannot keep staying in activities. We actually have to do the right thing. But like I said, River State is such an important state. Port Harcourt is such an important city. We cannot afford to gamble with it.
Yeah, definitely well said. And I love how well thought out your promises are, because right now they're promises until they're executed. But definitely we'll hold you to that. If elected, and we wish you all the best on that. But funny thing, on the latter side, what has the campaign process been like for you? Because we're in the campaign season. What has it been like?
Interesting. Not it's not business as usual. It's a lot of thinking, it's a lot of ingenuity, because you have to see all the power centers that be, all the clusters that be, and then communicate your idea. But I've received a lot of excitement, because I think in a very long time, no other candidate has been able to communicate their ideas like I do communicate mine. So.
What has it been like trying to galvanize the youth to rally around you, in total support?
At some point challenging, at some point easy. Yeah, we're meeting different types of people. People who could really think for themselves, people who think for their stomach. We're meeting all of them. So sometimes you have to do an extra to get them to see the future. And for some other people, it's just seamless. It's just a line. So it's here and there, and sometimes neither here nor there.
What are we expecting from you, Olumati Isaiah, in the next 4 years?
In the next 4 years,
what should we look forward to?
I think we should be looking forward to stellar leadership, a lot more confidence in young people, and see young people doing exploits because of the support that can come through government. Owing to my presence in government, I'm really particular about that. Inspiring the next generation for what is to come. What will come will come. What will be. Our difference will be how prepared we are, and my responsibility is to make the grounds prepared.
All right. Thank you so much. Well said. Now, there are so many people who would also like to rally around you, be part of your team, volunteer, with their skills or resources in any way possible. So how can they be able to reach your team?
You can reach me digitally on all the platforms. Olumati Isaiah, my name remains the same. At Mr. Olumati, if you have to use the handle. On Facebook, we have a group called Team Olumati. You can be part of that group. But if you need to do a text, you need to do a call, you need to do a WhatsApp message, you can call the number 003-8778-408, 08038774008, or 081-741-03182, 081-741-03182. Or you can do the email at olumatiisaiah@gmail.com, or contact@olumatiisaiah.com.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much. To wrap this up, I really want to ask you, what one philosophy actually do you live by?
Be brave with your life.
As you are. Thank you so much, Olumati, the principal. The incoming, getting into the studio today, I kept hearing honorable. we've already, yes, absolutely, to get used to that. So this brings us to the end of today's interview, Thav Exclusive, with the amazingly, intelligently, and phenomenally well-made, export out of Port Harcourt.
Peace and light.
Yes, out of Nigeria as well, Mr. Olumati Isaiah. I hope that you have been well informed, and do please galvanize support for him, because definitely he will be needing that come this election 2023. So I still remain your host, Natasha Brown. This is Thav Exclusive. Thank you for staying with us. See you next time. Bye for now.